Hey guys, we're back once again. Back again.
Please stop talking.
Okay. Okay. Once again, we have Miss Elena Michelle Webb on the podcast.
I'm gonna leave the podcast.
We are days away from the Tainted Premiere. Obviously, everyone else who was invited has already seen it. I have to admit, it was pretty great. I did still get an invitation this time. I'm surprised you keep letting me come back.
Well, not to the important things, just to
Yeah, I know. I remember.
Yeah.
I remember.
Yeah.
So yeah, today we're just going to talk about all things Tainted. So give everyone who, if you live under a rock, haven't seen the trailer or
Patrick?
What?
I said Patrick.
Give everyone an overview of what Tainted, what it is about, but also what made you come up with this idea.
Nothing. No, I'm just kidding. Tainted is essentially like the story of this girl named Erin, and she has visions, and her mom has her committed because like she made the mistake of trusting her mom apparently, and she has her committed. Yeah. She has her committed, and then Erin gets released quite a bit of time after being committed, and she's on medication, and things seem to be kind of right in her life, and then she kind of gets this knock at the door, and she has to essentially decide whether or not she wants to, go off of the medication to use her gifts to help the FBI solve these crimes that are happening. She falls in love.
She's gay.
She is gay, yes. She falls in love. She has to make this decision, and I think that it's really just kind of this. We're walking a thin line in Tainted with kind of like the mental health versus like spirituality of it all. Mm-hmm. I did my research, so that's it. I mean, essentially, it's a psychological thriller, and I hope that it's thrilling.
Well, it is.
Yeah.
But also, since you so purposely skipped over that part of the question, what made you think of the idea?
What made me think of the idea?
Yeah, or was it really just like, oh, this would be cool to see on the screen?
I can see visions.
Well, duh.
Yeah, no. I've been fairly gifted by the universe with some great gifts, and one of those is being able to see. And so I knew that I wanted to do something along the lines of like spirituality meets kind of like that mental health road, and like bridge them in a way that was respectful, because you don't want to diminish people's mental health. You don't want to add to the trauma of their mental health. But I knew I wanted to do a psychological thriller, and with anything that I do, I want there to be a beautiful message behind it. Mm-hmm. So I didn't just want to do like a typical psychological thriller where people are getting murdered and somebody has to come solve the crime. Like I didn't want to do something so simple.
Oh, that sounds like a rom-com.
You're right, a comedy, if you will. No, I didn't want to do something so simple. I really wanted to kind of blend worlds and almost create a different genre of like spirituality, psychological thriller, because that's what this whole thing is about. Like throughout the film, she's talking to these people who have passed away, and like that can be seen as such a terrifying thing to most people, but like for her, that is her comfort. You know what I mean? Like I lost my grandma, and so I still get to talk to her in the fifth dimension, and because of that, like I'm okay. And I feel better knowing that I didn't lose her. She's just not here and tangible, and I can't see her, if that makes sense. So, but yeah, I think I just wanted to do something justice, and I wanted to create a psychological thriller, but I wanted it to feel good. I wanted to represent something that was bigger than us. And I wanted to put a different spin on it.
Okay. Well, obviously everything that you make has personal ties to you. Annoyingly, obviously.
Yeah.
So I guess I would say for someone who does live under a rock and hasn't heard of you
Yeah.
or about um interdimensional levels, like we've already talked about those two, and then now we're on to Tainted. For
projects.
I know
Jesus.
it's crazy at this point.
I don't stop.
For someone who literally has no idea who Elena is, obviously you can probably tell if you've watched past podcasts that we've done, and it's like you have this company that you built off of only people that had the mindset that they were going to make it, and obviously like you said, like it's a mental and spiritual journey. So I guess I would say for someone who doesn't like is not on that journey but they want to be, what's like the best place to start? Does it have to be a one key thing?
No, I don't think spirituality is a one key thing. I think I still learn things. I think that I'm still on the journey. I think that my sister, who has been my spiritual guide, and my kind of life coach, is still on the journey. I think that the people I hold closest to me are still on the journey.
Mm-hmm.
It's almost a lifelong journey that you're on, and to start that journey, it's so intimidating because there's so much, right? It's like if I told you, I want you to go learn about, the Quran. You're like, where do I even start? Yeah. Like, what do you mean? Do I just read it? And there's no Bible for spirituality.
Yeah.
There's no,
manual,
you know what I mean? There's no manual. There's no guide on how to do this. So sorry, I was just thinking of when Doja said, I didn't learn to superstar from a textbook. And that's what it feels like, right? Like I didn't learn spirituality from a textbook. I learned by doing, right? And I've also found that spirituality calls for a lot of belief and trust and faith. Just like I guess you would say any religion calls for that, except there's something so beautiful about the fact that like I can go learn about this, but nobody is telling me what I have to learn about this.
Yeah.
Nobody is saying this is what you need to learn and these are the rules that you need to follow and this and this and this. Like the universe does not tell me that I have to uphold a specific standard to get something that I want. Mm-hmm. And so when you step into that role of spirituality, you first almost have to deprogram yourself, meaning you have to really sit with yourself and forget everything you've ever been taught about anything in general. Because if you don't go into this with a fresh mind and you don't go into it with a fresh start, then you're going to be in a position to where when you're trying to learn things, you will always come at them with a preconceived notion or judgment versus just accepting that this is the information that you're being told.
Yeah.
So I would say the first step would probably be to just sit with yourself and deprogram.
I was going to say, because I remember when we all kind of started on like really getting into it together, like I would say kind of like center ourselves. We would come home and we would, do some yoga to calm ourselves down. We would do some stretching. And then we'd sit for 15, 20 minutes and like doing meditations and stuff like that of our own, obviously. Yeah. And I think it's just like for someone who is, I guess before that, so for someone, me, who had never done it before, it's very like, I mean, you see all of the stuff on TV. It's like you sit like this and you're humming and like that's not what it has to be. Yeah. And I think a lot of people need to realize that that's like literally like meditation can literally be, if you wanted to, laying in your bed. Yeah. And just like closing your eyes or even having your eyes open, but like maybe you've closed off your mind to everything else that's in the world. You turn on some music that's not distracting. You don't have to listen to words or anything. You're just listening to the sound because the sound is the most calming part. Yeah. So I think that's one of the biggest things that me, but everyone else has learned as well. Yeah. That meditation and your spiritual journey doesn't have to be so like scheduled and you have to do it this day and this day or nothing's going to happen for you. And I think a lot of people have this preconceived notion that that's what it has to be, and that you have to do certain things to get to where like you are for some, and you know.
And what does that mean? Where I am, I'm not any more specific. I'm just here. I'm just somebody who loves spirituality. I love the universe. I love it. I love to manifest. I love to meditate. And I think that the misconceived part of that is that meditation is like quit thinking. Like, yes, to an extent, it's silencing those thoughts. But what's interesting is most people don't realize that like you do it, but you just are not consciously aware that you're doing it. Yeah, it's like you're doing it unconsciously, right? And like I was talking to a family friend of mine whose son I coach, and I was talking to her about meditation. And it's funny because her son came over, he's 12, and he says, so it's like daydreaming. It's like when you zone out when you're daydreaming. And I said, yeah, that's exactly what it is. Because when you zone out, you're not really thinking about anything. It's the reason why it takes people 3 or 4 times to call your name before you answer them. You're just not here for a second.
You don't hear anything.
Yeah. So yeah, I think that like that's just kind of that's kind of it. And I think even with when we talk about Erin in the film, mm-hmm. she's kind of at this point where it's like she's on this journey of spirituality, but she has no idea that she's on it. Mm-hmm. She has no idea what's happening. She's having these visions when she's young. So she's kind of freaking out because it's like, well, what am I supposed to do? Mm-hmm. And to not be able to feel like you can go and you can talk to somebody about that and you can get answers for that versus somebody looking at you going, oh, so you're crazy. Like, that sucks, right? Like, yeah. That sucks. And like the whole premise of that, like the tagline is you're not crazy, you're gifted. And that's such a beautiful thing, right? So yeah, I just think that spirituality in and of itself is a whole broad thing, and it's hard to shrink it down into one small factor, but the same way that Christianity or Buddhism or Catholicism is. So it's just like, it's one big thing. I just don't ever feel bad for doing anything, right? Yeah. Like, I don't feel... Now, there are like the obvious third dimensional rules that I follow, right? You don't kill people because that's not fun.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's not fun to kill people unless you're like Jeff Dahmer. But like, even then, was it really fun or were you addicted? So it's like, yeah, so like you still conform to like the 3D rules of everything, but like our spirit, our soul wants to fly. And so you see that most of the time when people are doing what they love to do. And hopefully Erin figures that out.
Yeah, well, I was actually just thinking, because it's like spirituality in general can be in ways. What am I trying to say? Feel like a religion, but only because it's like I like to say it's like faith, like you're believing what you're doing without seeing what you're doing. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? But growing up religious, like I did, I grew up LDS. It's so conformative, and you have to follow certain rules. Like for example, you can't drink coffee because it's caffeine.
Plot twist: he drinks coffee.
Not all the time, but I do. I drink also caffeine. It's in sodas. Like that's what's weird is like you're not allowed to drink coffee, but you can drink sodas with caffeine in them. That's what's weird. It's like it's so conformative. You have to abide by these rules, or you're told you're not a good person,
or you're going to hell.
Exactly, and I accept it.
Listen, I'll see you there, baby.
What are we wearing?
We can match.
We'll just wear this.
We should wear white. It'd be so fun. Like, let's just like throw a wrench in it. Like, hey.
And there's no dinosaurs, unfortunately.
I know. Jesus
broke it and stole them all.
Yeah.
But yeah, so I think that seeing Tainted for the first time, this one I feel, well, I'm known for not wanting the spoilers for movies that, except for Levels, because I was part of that. But for movies that I didn't watch or wasn't in the production process of, besides...
You adamantly go out of your way to not be a part of the process.
Yeah, I'm taking your babe with me.
Mm-hmm.
Because she wants to be surprised, too. That doesn't work very well for her, though.
Yeah, because...
You talk a lot.
Don't do that. Don't do that. Don't.
But yeah, it was a really fun I feel like with any movie, when there's a so dominant main character, you're going on the journey with them anyways.
Yeah.
So
yeah, and that's like dicey, right? Like it's like you have to decide how you want the main character perceived. You have to decide if they're the villain, if they're the hero. You have to decide who the villain and who the hero is. You have to decide if the side characters can sway the audience. So yeah, and I think Aaron was a really, really cool person to go on that journey with, because I think that a lot of us find ourselves in similar situations of wanting to figure out who we are and what we're meant to be here for. And that's the ultimate journey that she's on, is what am I here for, and could this potentially be it?
Yeah, and I think it was really cool because with a movie like Tainted, like I said, you're going along this journey with them. And at points, you feel like you're just putting yourself in her shoes. Like, would I be doing this if I were this character, or would I be doing something different? But then you also are like, no, I feel like I would have just done what she did. Because what other option was there?
Yeah, or you do like I would never do something like that. And then it's like, okay, well, come here and let me put you in front of the camera and let me see if you would do it, dude. Let's see, dude. Would you do it?
Yeah, and I think that's what makes a really great story, but also let alone movie, because those kind of go hand in hand.
Sometimes, yeah.
But being able to put yourself in at least one of the characters' shoes, is
the goal.
The goal.
Yeah, and that's tough. That's tough for me as the creator and the writer, because it's like I know that all of these characters have to be relatable
to a big audience.
Extent. Yeah, like right, like even the bad guy, there's something that you can relate to, whether the bad guy is doing it for good intentions or for good reason, right? If you found out that somebody was stealing a can of soup from the store, but then you found out he was doing it because his family hadn't eaten, is he a bad guy?
I mean,
in the eyes of the law, he's a thief.
Yeah, in the eyes of the law, that's the biggest thing, is like there's so many misconceptions.
Yeah, in the eyes of the law, he's a thief. But like, you know what I mean? Is the serial killer killing killers? Dexter? Right? Dexter was a beautiful representation of that. Are the vampires that don't have humanity, are they bad people? Or do they just make bad decisions? Or
have they lost so many people that they don't want to feel that anymore?
So you know what I mean? So and that's what you want. You want those questions. And as a writer, you're doing it from the perspective of what would the audience question right now? What's the question? And you have to have one person who does that, right? So in the film, you have Erin, she falls in love, her partner. So you have her partner, you have the FBI agents that show up, you have her mom, you have the mom's new person, you have her sister, you have her dad, and one of those people has to act as the audience, right? So as an audience member, if you're watching it, you would say, well, why doesn't she just do this? And then you would have somebody on the camera as the writer say, Erin, why don't you just do this? And then Erin will explain to that person, but it's really asking from the audience's perspective.
Being able to ask those questions in your head and then getting them answered, whether it's immediately or just throughout the film anyways.
Right? So you have to have somebody in the film who acts as the audience. You have to have somebody in the film who's the hero, who's the villain. You abide by the tradition, and then I love to break the rules. And that's what you see in Tainted. I love to abide by the tradition, but I love to break the rules.
Yeah.
So, and with Tainted, the cast, star-studded. So, I mean, it was
always
easy.
Always is.
Okay. Well, you know me. You know me.
Gotta go big or go home.
Go big or go home, right? Go big. And that's even tricky, too. You don't want to put star-studded people if you really want to get the message across, unless these people can get the message across, right? Like, it's why when you see movies with like kind of like C-list celebrities where you're not really used to them or you've never seen them before, you're really focused on that message and the writing aspect of it. Versus if you watch a movie with A-list people, you're not focused on what they're saying. You're like, damn, she's fine.
Yeah, or you're kind of focused on the fact that you could tell this movie had that certain movie had such a big budget that they wanted to pull everyone that they could, but really it's like watching it, you're thinking, she's awful for this role, or he is awful for this role.
Or it's like, I can only ever see you as what you played in that specific movie.
Yes.
Or I can only ever see you as the girl who grew up on Disney Channel. Yeah. I can only ever see you as the artist, the music artist. So working with somebody like Renee or Dakota Johnson. So these people that we work with, it's like you have to fine tune their characters to where there was never a moment in Tainted Erin was not played by Renee. And because of that, she's fine-tuned and tailored to what Renee would feel like and sound like and look like on camera, right? And the partner, there's like a tuning thing that you have to do, like as with any instrument. You know what I mean? So in writing that script, we had to kind of fine tune it because you don't want somebody to say that is awful for you. Like, this role is so bad. Why did you take it?
Yeah. So
it's like you have to really fine tune each character, and also kind of have in mind who you want to play this role.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, and obviously,
well, and
ain't got no budget when I'm on the set, as Ariana Grande would say.
Love her.
Yeah.
Love her so much.
Yeah.
Well, yeah. Well, like we said, it's days away from the premiere.
Worldwide, yeah.
Worldwide. I know. I mean, I'm sure you know, but box office numbers are probably pretty high at this point. So yeah, I'm excited for everyone to see it. I'm glad that we were able to talk about it today.
Yeah, me too.
Get into the story without really. We told the storyline, but we didn't spoil anything. Which
I would hope
good.
Not. There's a lot of things that I didn't spoil.
There's a lot of things you actually won't see coming, so don't be fooled.
That's the goal. That's the goal. That is the goal. Yes, we don't want you to be able to predict the ending. That makes boring movies.
Yeah. Well, we're gonna cut it off here. I can leak that we do have a really fun episode coming up that we're going to talk about one of our favorite TV shows. We've already talked about it.
I don't understand how he gets me to do these things. Where are my people?
They went to get you lunch.
Oh.
But yeah, so watch out for that. That'll probably be out soon. So we will see you next time.
Maybe.
We will. We will. Bye, guys.